Welcome to another edition of 89 with Steve Smith Sr., James Palmer, coming out every single Wednesday morning, Steve. Remember, we're also, if you don't want to see these beautiful faces, I don't know why you wouldn't, but we're also a podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Every single Wednesday we come out, Steve. We got a banger show today. Surprise, surprise. Davante Adams is getting traded. Surprise, surprise again. He's going to the Jets.
To the Jets.
This is
Wow.
Initial thoughts on Davante Adams to the Jets. They lose Monday night to the Bills. Does this get them back on track? Because it seems like they're trying everything because they feel like this is it, in my opinion, for us to make that run this year. That might be it.
So this water cooler talk, somebody's gonna come up to the water cooler. There's always that devil's advocate that says,
Is it Jason in accounting, Steve?
"It's
Hey,
Jason
Steve."
in accounting."
Hey, Steve, this is a terrible trade.
Yes, Davante Adams can't save the Jets. No, he cannot. But what he does is he gives their offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, a weapon that allows more attention to this wide receiver. So now you have Garrett Wilson, Davante Adams. You're not man coveraging these guys, which means that you're probably going to have to play a little zone, which means you're going to have to dedicate more people to the attention of the wide receivers, which means that the box is not loaded and they can run the ball more efficiently. That's what I believe it does. It helps add more thoroughbreds to the barn, which means it opens up the offense. And I had a little bit of doubt of Todd Downing when he was with the Raiders. Didn't go well. When he was with Tennessee, didn't go well. What I saw last night, man, shocked me. I was impressed. And good job, Todd.
We did see more of a connection between Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers on Monday night. That took a step in the right direction, for sure, right? And I think the style of play that they're looking for, as you know, we've seen some miscommunications through these first 6 weeks between the receiving core and Aaron Rodgers, is what? Aaron does a lot at the line of scrimmage. And that's a big part. It's a gift and a curse, in all honesty, in the way he plays. It is, sometimes you rely too heavily on what Aaron can do at the line of scrimmage, so it affects your game planning a little bit, even if it's subconsciously. But also, you're relying on the way that he can just kind of a wink and a nod. I want this. I'm seeing this. Who's the best guy in football that understands that wink and that nod? Davante Adams. And that's the style of play that they want to play. It's the way that Aaron plays. And now he gets the guy that understands it better than anybody else in the league about how to play that style of football.
This just popped in my head. What happens if they do win the Super Bowl and they go on this run?
Hey.
Holy smokes.
I'm not making a full comparison, Steve, but what happened when Tom Brady went down to Tampa? Did he bring the gang with him? Brought Gronk with him. He wanted AB. That didn't go so well, but he brought AB in with him. But there's some similarities in it, right? In Tom going down to Tampa and what Aaron's trying to accomplish here with the Jets. I definitely think there's some differences for sure as well, but that is kind of a comparison you could see. Let's look at this from the Raiders standpoint. They wanted this trade to happen. When it came out, and what usually happens, Steve, when reports come out on Sunday, it was, well, the Raiders are comfortable keeping Davante Adams.
Yeah.
What does that usually mean?
They ain't comfortable.
Please come and get Davante Adams. Please come and get our player. We're trying to create some leverage here, and we want you to be more aggressive because we want you to fear that we're comfortable with him staying. It just hasn't gone well for well over a year. Talking to people in that building last week or 2 weeks ago, I think it was essentially Davante Adams has been 1 foot in, 1 foot out for over a year. Things have not gone well in terms of the way the two see eye to eye on certain things. 3 different players had babies during training camp. 2 of them missed a day. Davante Adams missed 2 weeks. They were rubbed the wrong way. A lot of people in the building and the locker room, I'll say this, about the way Davante Adams was perceived in that Netflix receiver show. That actually rubbed some teammates wrong, to my understanding, as well as people in the front office. And then just the way it came off. It just
How did it come off?
It came off that he's not fully in. That is what the assumption was from the Raiders listening and watching that show, was he doesn't appear to be fully into what we're doing here.
When I didn't watch the whole thing, but I thought he did a good job showing how much that he focuses on the game. is looking at how to improve his game. I thought it was
And I will say this, you're right, because that part of it, they never questioned. They never questioned his effort in
okay.
games. They never questioned his ability to make plays. They never thought he was dogging it on a Sunday. Like those things
Okay.
did not exist at all.
So what are you
He
referring
did.
to?
I think they were saying, he did make his feelings known about some things, specifically the previous quarterback, some other things, and I'm just telling you that it just rubbed a couple of people the wrong way. I'm not saying that's why they wanted to trade him. We know that he went in and asked for a trade. I think we can put the pieces together that there was some people together in cahoots to get this trade to happen and to have it happen in where it ended up happening. There were some other teams in play. The Saints situation changed dramatically. The Bills were interested. The Steelers were interested. I think there's going to be receivers available. There could be one that's on the Jets roster that's available, Steve. Where does Mike Williams fit into everything now? That's $10 million for a number 4, I would say. You put Alan Lazard as the 3 if we're talking about the way Aaron plays.
Okay. I was like, he's not a 4.
I don't think he's a 4, but I'm
Yeah,
looking at the receiver room now.
I would say I would think Mike Williams would be a good fit for the Steelers because of
It's a
the
vet,
way
man.
Justin Fields kind of throws the ball and his catch radius is right
Great
there.
point.
Um, I think this is just my assumptions. I do think George Pickens is maybe wearing thin on Pittsburgh a little bit. I think it's getting unique and interesting, and I think the rubber's starting to meet the road a little bit. And so if they can get a veteran in there and kind of maybe show them how it's done, because Mike doesn't talk a lot. He's not a big
No,
vocal guy,
he
but
makes plays though.
he makes plays, and I think that can maybe kind of show George Pickens, hey, sometimes, man, you just got to play a little bit better and maybe not have all these subliminal messages, on your eye black and all that, all that stuff. You just got to go out there and play, man.
For sure. And the Raiders are not picking up any of this money. The Jets had the cap room to make this happen with Davante Adams' salary that's going to happen this year. And remember, there's going to need to be a restructure to his salary. It just absolutely balloons after this year. And there's no guaranteed money
let's
after
make
this
sure
year.
they get that figured out before they make the trade.
Hey, hey. But what we're seeing, Steve, honestly, with this trade, are you seeing the Jets? They are now pulling every single lever you do to try to change the course of a season. You want to change the vibe in the room, you fire the head coach. Usually you make a change at play caller. Usually you make a trade to try to get some juice. They've done all of these things. Change play caller on offense, fired the head coach, and now they're bringing him back. Do you think Davante Adams walking through that locker room, walking through that door, changes that whole vibe in that room?
He does change the vibe as in, hey, we got a guy, right? So new energy, a new perspective. We got a guy that's gonna come in. He's on a rampage, man. He has to prove. And here's the other part. I'm not saying that Davante has said this, but I know these are keywords you always use as a veteran.
Hit me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Just going in the Jets, man, that thing feel good. And Hammy is.
Man, I woke up this morning, Steve, and it was gone.
I woke up this morning feeling nearly perfect.
But that's the positive side of things. What if you're Garrett Wilson and you go 8 for 107 and you're like, I'm starting to jive with my future Hall of Fame quarterback?
Bro, nah, Garrett Wilson is not worried about that. Garrett Wilson is young, but also he can learn from Davante Adams.
That's the right mentality to have for it. You're right.
He can learn from him. Will Davante Adams take some of his catches? No, because they're two different wide receivers. They run different routes. They have a different skill set.
True. That's a great point.
What's going to happen is one guy's going to eat every other, and it's going to allow more plays to be made, not taken away.
Let me ask you this, Steve. Does this become a second-round pick? Because this third-round pick will become a second-round pick if any of the following happens. 1, Davante Adams must be a first or second team All-Pro.
Well, see, here's what's going to happen. If he goes out there and gets 1,000 yards after missing a couple of weeks, which isn't going to be very hard for him to do, That's a possibility. Continue.
Okay. The other, he's on the active roster for an AFC championship game or Super Bowl. That's it. Those are the only two contingencies that would make this
So both of
third-round
those have
pick
to happen?
one of the two.
Oh, one or two? Oh, okay, yeah. I think that's a possibility. The second round pick going to the question is going to
You
be
think
now
it's-
what do the Raiders do with that second round pick?
You think it's gonna be a second round pick? He's gonna be you think he'll? So it's because of the first one. You think he'll be an all?
Yeah, it'll be for if he think about this, man. He gets 1,000 yards after being traded. How many yards does he have right now? He has 26 targets, 18 receptions, 209 yards. So, yeah, if he can come out there and get 1,200, bro, that'd be crazy.
That'd be crazy. Wow.
But
Well,
I'm not saying he can't.
Everybody was kind of trying to, see if they could land Davante Adams. And obviously there's going to be receivers at the trade deadline that are going to be available. An extremely important aspect of trading for a receiver is that they can hit the ground running, and it's usually because they have some familiarity.
He's going to hit the ground running.
He's going to hit the ground running. He's going to hit the ground running because he feels that quarterback and he knows that quarterback. That's really important because it can take a minute. You played the position, Steve. You know it's not easy.
It's not going to here's
No, I'm saying it can for a lot of guys. You're thrown into a new system. You don't know the quarterback.
Yes, but he knows this system. The system isn't far off, so he knows that system.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't be surprised, bro, if he's already been in these last couple of weeks, he's been studying the playbook anyway. Let's just be 100.
Exactly.
Right? He already got his Jordans lined up. So they color scheme is done.
Underdog is bringing you Boost-tober. New promos and special offerings each day of this month. Check the Underdog app and follow us online to stay up to date on all we've got brewing this month. I went to your former team, your former stadium, and I wanted to see the Commanders, I wanted to see the Ravens, and what we saw, Steve, was maybe 2 MVPs on that Baltimore Raven team, 2 MVP candidates in Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, but what we are seeing from King Henry and the addition there in his second year, Zay Flowers is really, really benefiting from the design of this offense right now that we're getting into week 6, week 7, and now we're going to see kind of what this Ravens team is all about. What do you see from Zay? Because I know you guys have a relationship as well.
I mean, what I see from Zay is exactly what I saw from him in college, right? Okay. At Boston College, he was a guy that was really explosive, really did a lot of good things. Obviously, some people will look at him and talk about his size and their lack thereof. But the thing that jumps out off the page, off his plays, is his big playability, right? His ability to separate, his ability to get in and out of routes, very physical, meaning able to fight off the defender, not physical as in King Henry, but physical enough that his stature does not disqualify him. So I have some tape that
let's go.
I picked some plays that I thought that were really good. And it doesn't necessarily always have to do with the ball going to him, but there are some things to help set him up that are really, really good. First of all, toughness and speed. Where does he line up? He lines up all over the field. He's not just a slot guy. And a lot of times people want to categorize people. Where's they play? And he plays all over the field. He's the reliable wide receiver. Not saying that other guys aren't, but he's the reliable wide receiver. They know to go to and how to go to him. And then the other emerging target is likely as well. But let's get into it right in the first quarter. He's right there at the top of the numbers on the 40. That's what you call a condensed split. Looking at it down in distance. Where do they go? Just go ahead and run this and just watch how he runs his route, right? He comes off with speed, right? Gets the corner going. Now, you got to go back. I want to stop right before, right? As soon as he's going, pause right there. You see that? When I talk about getting a guy outside of the framework of your body, that corner is outside the framework of his body. Now he's slow backpedaling, but once he gets outside of his framework, he now has to drive on the ball. But when he drives on the ball, he has to gather step, then step, and then go, which puts you behind. And Zay does that because he uses his speed and his tempo to understand if I come off tempo, it's going to bring off a red flag to the corner. Great job by Zay. Good job by Lamar seeing that. He knows what they're doing. They're in man-to-man coverage. Because of the run game, they have to be in man-to-man coverage, which really ended up being the reason why the Commanders fell behind, because they had to play man coverage. They're a more zone coverage team. When they can pin their ears back, play in zone, make the quarterback think, that benefits the Commanders. But they couldn't do that with King Henry because of how they're running the football. So we got this play down going at the 11-yard line. Just watch this route. His speed comes in there, right? I like this. This is kind of like a hinge, but what I really like is the physicality, the toughness. Look, guy uses his arm guard, throws him off. That little point, he's letting them know, look, I got you. And that's going to play into a benefit for Zay later in the game. He doesn't get the football, but he lets him know, one, what? I can run by you. Two, if you try to armbar me, I will throw you off me. So now he's giving them data, information to that corner. This didn't work. That didn't work. Now let's go to the next play. He's up at the top of the numbers. They're going motion with likely, so indicating is it man, is it zone, man coverage. They're telling him pass. Boom. Crosses his face.
The PI. They set up the Henry touchdown.
Yes.
It's a big
It was
play.
a PI. Look, goes across his face. But what I love is he hits his hand down, right? Using his physicality, hits his hand down, which allows the corner to what we call slingshot through.
Yeah.
Try
Grabs him
to
around the waist.
undercut the throw of the ball. That's when I talked about remember last week when I was saying that Keon Coleman, sometimes he doesn't go downhill. I'm going to show you why with Zay later. Going downhill, getting back friendly is important to secure and take care of the throw when the quarterback. So he's down here in the Cadiz formation, goes. Watch this. You see how he comes back downhill?
Yep.
When you come back downhill, now that throws off the corner. Look, see how the corner's still going, but he goes back downhill. That allows him to shield himself between ball, receiver, defender. That is a reliable receiver, and that's what makes your quarterback trust you.
Steve, he plays a lot bigger than he is, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, because he also knows his speed, and he's utilizing his speed to kind of open up his routes. And then every so often he'll do something like this. Look, spin, takes two guys to tackle him.
Yeah. I kept hearing last year, I remember doing their game in Cincinnati, and I kept talking to their guys on the offensive side of the ball. They're like, we think we got one, man, because this dude is way tougher to bring down, I think, than people understand.
So we're going to go ahead and go to the next play. Now, this play I really love. He's in the slot right now, so they're giving him variation. Look at fighting through. Look at
It works
this.
right into him.
Yes. So go to the end zone copy on this one, because this is extremely important. He's leaning. See how he's leaning on the defender's leaning on him. He's fighting through. But what does he do? He gives him a little chicken wing.
Yeah.
Elbow while he's leaning on him. So he hits him in the gut, leans on him, but the corner's leaning on him and doesn't anticipate. When he leans on him, the corners think he's going back towards the corner.
Yeah. Yep.
Nope. Jedi mind tricked you. Ta-ta. Corner falls. Look at that. Goes inside. Bow. Love that. Love it. Doesn't get to play, but he gets data into that corner.
And he created
Knowing,
space.
hey, you're in trouble. This is a play that I doubt it. He doesn't get the ball, but watch this.
Oh, a little
Spin him like a top.
little hitch in the step.
Yes, that's what you call a rocker step. So he gets up there, gets him. See, this is what I'm talking about. Data information. He's got this corner questioning himself.
Because he's showing him everything now.
He's showing him everything. Now he's over there puppet master. He's trying to figure out, now I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and that sets it up. But what it does do, it sets up next week against the new corner, because now the new corner says, hey, I've seen this, I've seen that, I've seen this. Now that's where you're smart is. You have a few plays to where he looks like he's doing the end. He looks like he's doing the end. And what he's really going to do, what I call, give him a little shake seven where he goes, head fake, goes opposite way, boom, big play.
It's been impressive, Steve.
Yeah,
It's been
very
impressive for a
impressive.
few reasons. I mean, he's got back-to-back career highs in 2 weeks, right? 111 yards 2 weeks ago, goes for 132 off of 9 catches, off of 9 targets in the first half in this game last Sunday. He actually didn't get targeted in the second half. Everything you saw from in terms of catching the football happened in the first half. And what we're seeing, Steve, is all these defenses, as you mentioned, he's showing all these different things at defenses.
Yep.
Defenses are trying to figure out how to stop this group. Lamar admitted after the game to us that this is the most balanced team offensively he's ever been a part of. You mentioned the man that Washington was in. I mentioned where I was watching the game from that press box. It's kind of down towards the end zone. You're able to kind of see. It was single high, load the box, almost every single play, trying to stop Derrick Henry. That puts them in man. Then when we saw different approaches, the way teams have tried to stop this Ravens team this year, and each one they've had a way to beat it, right? You know, like the Bills wanted to sit in nickel, so okay, let's just pound the football. Like against the Cowboys, you want to take out their edge rushers, you just run the ball on the perimeter, and you just run the ball at their edge rushers. And so they have a way, it seems right now, Steve, to beat almost every type of way you want to line up, because of the balance. And when you have a receiver getting to the level that Zay's getting, with the way you brilliantly broke that down in terms of all the different ways that he can approach corners and find different ways to get open, when you have Lamar throwing it the way he's throwing it, that's back-to-back over 300-yard games. He hasn't done that since 2021. He's playing at a better level than he did in both his MVP seasons right now through 6 games. And you add Derrick Henry to the mix. When I was in the Commanders' locker room, I heard from a couple people, it's not really fair that Lamar Jackson gets Derrick Henry. I mean, it almost makes this offense have an argument, Steve. Are they the best unit in football offensively right now and have a chance to do that? Because I know some guys on the Ravens were going, I wish we could play Kansas City right now again, because we've grown as an offense from what we were probably in those first 2 weeks.
Well, look, that's what you want, though. You want each week you to get better. And I believe, I'm not biased because I have all this Ravens stuff back here. Not at all.
I know.
But I do understand and look from afar that Coach Monken was obviously with the University of Georgia. There was some little moaning and groaning his first year that things weren't great. But having a full off season and kind of implementing, now you have a run game, and all of a sudden things are looking a little different. I would tell you the only thing that is tough offensively, I can understand what the Ravens are and saying they wish they had an opportunity to play the Kansas City Chiefs at this moment. But the way they're playing, they're going to get their opportunity later in the season when it really counts in the playoffs, right? Where all that data. But the problem that I'm concerned about, as a former, as they say, I have dual citizenship here in Carolina, but also they say as a Raven, once a Raven, always a Raven.
True story.
The thing that's a little bit wonky for me has to do with Coach Orr. He's getting better as a defensive coordinator, but his players are also understanding the responsibility. Coach Mike McDonald, who's now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, he ran a different defense. He was different. There's different keys there. There's also different players on that defense compared to a year ago. So that's the difference, I think, with the Baltimore Ravens from week 1 to now week 6 has to do with the defense and the familiarity and the comfortability that these guys are having with their new defensive coordinator and the new defensive players as well.
Yeah, put a little bow tie on this, Steve. What I gathered being at the game, asking around within the organization, a few things. Dean Pease, smart move to bring him back on that defensive side of the ball and what you're talking about. And, this was brought up to me too. Mike McDonald, when he started taking over that defense, it didn't go great the first 5, 6, 7 games.
No,
there were some questions there. So they are comfortable with John Harbaugh has always given guys time, right? Given coaches time to get into it. Dean Pease also a big part. Denard Wilson, losing him on the back end, though, asking around as a secondary coach, that's a big loss. He coached that position really, really well. And I know a lot of people say this might be a team that, hey, do they go after another receiver in this group? My understanding would be they'd try to add to the other side of the ball if they did anything at the trade deadline. I think that adds up with what you're saying, Steve. Steve, I know the way everyone feels about Mike Evans down in Tampa. That's a first ballot Hall of Famer right there. But his running mate is just maybe one of the most underrated twos in the NFL, and Chris Godwin, and he went bananas against the Saints. He goes 11 for 125, 2 touchdowns. He leads the NFL with 43 catches. he is so consistent, Steve. And this is what I want to get into in the type of player he is, because it's just the same every game. He's going to have at least 5 catches. He's going to have at least 50 yards every single game. He's probably going above those. But like the consistency of Chris Godwin, he's a different player than when we talked about with Zay Flowers. But what do you like about his game? Because I love this position so much, and I know that's why you know so much about it. Different guys can have different skill sets and both create success at this spot.
Well, coming out of college at Penn State, he was 4'4", right? He's 208 pounds, 6'1". But what's crazy about it is with that speed, you naturally want to put him on the outside. And originally, when he was first drafted with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he was on the outside. But I don't know who and I don't know how they figured it out. But when they started figuring out where to put him in alignment, that's where things started to make him extremely special. And what do I mean by that is back in 2019, 63% of the time in the slot. Then in 2021, 70%. 2022, 72%. 2023, last year, he played more outside 62% of the time, only 37% of the time. But now he's back to where he does his work 61% of the time and 38.9, which is pretty much 40%. But here's the thing that in totality that makes him very impressive. It's not his targets. It's not his make guys miss tackles. He doesn't make guys miss a lot of tackles. 29 first downs. But his yards after the catch, 332. So right now, numbers may be off a little bit, but I know people are going to tell me if I'm wrong, so that's fine. But he has roughly 7,200 yards. 3,116 of his career 7,200 receiving yards. 3,116 yards of that is yak. 43% of all of his business is after the catch. He doesn't look like it, but bro, he is not easily to take down.
No.
He doesn't make a guy miss. He just either runs by you or he'll try to run you over, and then another guy comes, and then another guy's holding on for dear life. Hey, come help me. Just special, man. And putting him in a slot, condensed formation, they put him in motion. He'll come up block. He'll insert, block D linemen, block linebackers. Just a well-rounded wide receiver with speed, but then he could just ball, bro. Wow.
He really can. I was talking. I texted a DB coach, and I was just like, so what makes Chris Godwin so good in your eyes? When you've gone against him, had to try to stop him, right? And this was kind of the vibe. It was like he changes speeds really well. He's got really good body strength. He just understands really well how to navigate zones and win leverage versus man. Like he just has a great feel for that, because it's like you said, it's not like he's creating a ton of separation. He's just got a great feel for how he's going to go about his route.
And they do a good job of allowing him to have that feel. And he runs routes in the middle of the field like a tight end, meaning he understands where to sit. Like he'll run his route, wrap around the linebacker, and then he settles in. He doesn't keep running blindly. He settles in and makes himself what they call friendly to the quarterback. And that's a innate ability that not everybody has. I was a runner. So I blew through stop signs, hazard, caution. Yeah. He sees that and he says, hey, yellow means slow down there, buddy. And that's what he does.
He slows down there, buddy. Yeah, it was like he finds angles, right? And the other part you're saying, Steve, in these spots, he catches everything that's contested. Like he snatches everything that's contested, and that's a big part of it. And so before we move on, what makes a good yak receiver? Like we're seeing a couple of them right now, and obviously there's some similarities in some of them, but some of them are different. Him and Jamar Chase are insane after the catch, but they're bigger dudes. What makes a good yak receiver in your mind?
What makes a good yak receiver has to do with a guy knows where he's going while he's actually running the route. So he's running a route, catches it, and his mind is already telling him, all right, I remember the linebacker and the safety was here. This is cover 6 buzz. This is 4, where's quarters. So I'm sitting in a zone, catch it, go upfield. He doesn't have a lot of.
Oh, he gets
wasted
vertical quick,
movement.
Steve.
He gets vertical quick and quick. And that's what I say. Like when I talk to young guys and I say, look, when you catch the ball, don't take bricks off the house. Put it on there. So bang, catch it, go forward. And that's what he does extremely well.
It's awesome. He's been fun to watch, man. Really, really underrated dude. Let's move on to your route of the week, Steve. This is a man that last week on Thursday and Friday said, I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch Sally Jesse Raphael.
That's still on?
But Romeo Dobbs said, I'm not going to go to practice Thursday and Friday. I'm just going to hang out.
Just chill.
He gets suspended. And then he comes back the next week. And once again, he gets 2 tutties. And he runs some routes like this. Run us through your route of the week, Steve. This is great.
Well, it puts him in motion. So he's identifying what kind of zone coverage is a man. They run man coverage. Gives him a little in and out. Great catch. Great back shoulder ball. That was one of the 2 touchdowns he had, right? Just go, gives a little hesitation, gives a head movement. Look at the head movement. Arms, corner. The corner looks back like, I hope he didn't throw it. Yep, he threw it.
Did he sell him, Steve? Is that what he's doing? Is that why the corner's so far off him in the end zone? Does he sell him like he's going that way before he goes back?
Well, he's so far ahead of him.
The corner has to catch.
All that Love throws is a back shoulder, what we call a hinge route, makes it friendly. Just a hell of a throw. I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah.
Great route. Geek. Look, when he's even, he's leaving. But then a back shoulder throw, corner's in trouble. That's
His head was spinning, man.
Yeah.
Which way he was going. But that throw under pressure, by the way, is just.
Yes. Yeah. Here's what I think. I think the throw under pressure actually makes the play. If he throws that ball back of the end zone, the way the corner is on his horse, I think it may end up getting picked.
So do you think that's an in-play adjustment by Jordan Love there to go?
No, that was a hot potato. The defender was coming. He was trying to get the ball, and he was off his back foot.
So this is where I got to go.
Bow.
Out of the week.
You see?
Whew.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Great balance. Here's the best part about that, though. The best part about that play is on the sideline when he comes in and LaFleur kind of daps him up. He gives him that dead fish like, oh, now you want to be my friend because the cameras are watching.
A little bit of dead fish. Hey, man, they got a lot of mouths to feed. Jordan Love's got to spread their eyes. Got to try to.
Hey, remember I told
happy
you
at
when
the
we
table.
were talking about this. I said, man, the young wide receiver core in Green Bay was outstanding. I'm telling you, they're outstanding, bro.
We're going to get into that whole division. And before we break down that division, Steve, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Is it time for a change in Dallas? They got the bye week. Do you expect a change happen?
What do they change to?
Bingo. That's it. What do you change to? Yes, you're losing by an average of 20 points a game at home. You're 0-3 at home. You've given up an insane number of points.
129.
129.
When you only gave up 117 all of the 8 games last year, now you're giving up 129 through 3 games.
You know, you can't stop anybody running the football.
Nope.
You can't really run the football consistently. If you're going to make a change on the coaching staff, which I don't see what you do, because here's the couple reasons why. And we've seen one already. You usually make a coaching staff change for a few reasons. One, oftentimes, it's because there's somebody on your staff you want to see. Hey, maybe let's take a longer look at this guy if we're going to make a move.
I didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it actually happened in Dallas. It's when they moved on from Wade Phillips. They kind of knew Jason Garrett was the next guy. Let's take an added look at Jason and have him be the head coach for a minute. That's one of the reasons you make a change. I'm not going to say that's why Robert Saleh was out, but Woody Johnson was kind of enamored with Jeff Ulbrich, to my understanding. Like, let's take a look at Jeff a little bit. That's one of the reasons you make a change. 2, the guy's just message in the room is just gone. It's just not there anymore.
Which can happen.
Which can definitely happen, and then that's when a change is needed. But I believe Jerry when he says he has not thought about it, he's not going to do it. Now, the reason we're thinking about it is Mike McCarthy's a lame duck coach. But you're right. What do you go to? Do you go to the guys in Mike Zimmer, whose defense has just been atrocious so far, and you're going to say we're going to fire, in a lot of people's opinion, maybe the best coach in the building in Mike McCarthy?
Out of the 2, you have to say Mike McCarthy's better than Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer's picked up exactly where he left off when he was run out of town in Minnesota.
Exactly. And that was Jerry's handpicked guy to replace Dan Quinn. So is Jerry going to make a change on the defensive side of the ball? from the guy that he brought in this offseason? No, it's the issue, Steve, is this. They got older and more expensive this offseason. I don't think they got better. Like, they didn't make any moves to get really all that much better. You got young guys on the offensive line that need to continue to grow, and who knows how long that takes. You're obviously missing two really important pieces to your defense, but I don't think that entirely changes the way this defense is playing.
That doesn't necessarily help anything.
No. And so I don't think you can change anything. And I think that's the part that they're stuck in right now. The thing that stands out to me the most are two things, really. One, they used to be a team that just destroys people at the line of scrimmage and just owns the trenches. And that's just not the case right now. And two, on Jerry's 82nd birthday, they were getting embarrassed. You had linemen going out for passes from the Detroit Lions. You had Penei Sewell out there at a hook and ladder. Like, you had the big man rumbling towards the end zone. Like, you had Ben Johnson just going, let me go to the furthest part of my playbook here and just start dialing it up.
Bro, I love watching that game and Dan saying, we're going to open up the playbook.
Yeah.
When he said we're going to open up the playbook, I said, oh, Gina. Oh, man.
Yeah, but like, you're in a really, really bad spot when teams are toying with you, and the physicality that you were known for is not there at the line of scrimmage. So I don't think they can make a change. I think that's where they're at right now. Because if you look at it, what do you change to? And that's where they're stuck.
That's tough.
Steve, the NFC North. First time since 2002, all four teams in a division have at least 4 wins through 6 games.
Wow.
There's a chance all 4 go to the postseason. We'll see. It's week 6 is in the books. But what I want to do...
Hold on.
What?
With Atlanta beating my Carolina Panthers, I think that edged out one of the teams. Just fact-checking. Just saying. It's a formula which I don't understand. I just know.
You're like a beautiful mind. I don't understand it, but I do know it. Let's go trust factor. Okay. I want you to rank your 4 and how much you trust them, and then I'll give you my 4.
All right. I trust Minnesota number 1.
Okay.
Because, it has nothing to do with the quarterback situation. I like both sides of the football. Right?
Understand.
Brian Flores is doing an outstanding job. Offense is going. I don't believe Sam Darnold has that pressure that everybody thinks that he has. He's not asked to go out there and put everybody on his back. His job is to go out there and read and go through his progressions and throw the football to one of the top young receivers in the game. And then Jordan Addison and all these other players that they have. And Kevin O'Connor's doing a great job. Now, my number 2 is Green Bay.
Woo! We're going to have different lists here. Let's go.
The Lions dropped to number 3 because of Aiden Hutchinson's injury.
I understand that.
I do not believe that you can now look at the Detroit Lions as a shoo-in with the absence of Aiden Hutchinson, because who is on the other side that now is going to pick up? The Detroit Lions have 15 sacks. 7.5 of them just went on IR, right?
They've lost other guys on that D-line too, so yeah.
Yes, and so as they're losing some of the other guys and your top producer, that's going to put a little bit more stress on the secondary. So that's why I'll go with Green Bay number 2, Lions number 3, and Chicago at number 4.
Okay. Our lists are very different. I'm going to go with my number 1 being the Detroit Lions.
Okay, I understand that. The way they played is great.
And I will go the Vikings 2.
Okay.
Green Bay 3. Bears 4. The reason I had these 2 at the top, and first off, this division's outstanding.
Yes, it is.
These are like the top 4 teams in point differential. These are like the top 4 teams in terms of takeaways. Packers are 1, Bears 2, Vikings 3, Lions 7. Like, they all play well. What I'm looking at in the top 2, Steve, and why they're my top 2 are, what do I trust the most? I trust really good coaching, which I think Kevin O'Connell could be the front runner for the coach of the year this year. And I think Ben Johnson might be the best offensive mind in the division. So, and I also like Aaron Glenn, but I really like Brian Flores. So, like, I'm looking at who calls the plays on both sides of the ball for those top 2 teams. I think both of them are outstanding. I think the culture in Detroit maybe just edges Minnesota a little bit. When I saw that video, Steve, after that game, and Dan Campbell's giving out game balls to everybody, and they're emotional because of Aiden Hutchinson, and then Jared Goff gives his game ball back to the head coach and says, "This dude's our rock here moving forward," and he gives it back to Dan Campbell. It's like chill bumps right now thinking about that. I think they got a little something special in that locker room to try to overcome some of these things, and I wouldn't be surprised. They know their Super Bowl windows right now. They got a chip on their shoulder from a season ago, the way things ended, that they don't make a move for a pass rusher to try to help this group up front, knowing this is maybe our best chance right now. We just talked about Dallas earlier in the show. The window seems closed. 2-3 years ago, they were one of the best rosters in football. It can change very quickly. You better go after that championship when you got a chance. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a move for somebody up front. And the back end there keeps getting better. And a lot of these teams have deep weapons. The Lions, man, Amon-Ra St. Brown and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and Jamison Williams and Sam Laporta. Your man Tim Patrick is making major contributions.
Yes, he's back.
He's back.
Talking about,
biggest
baby.
mistake the Broncos made, man. And that, if anybody's mentality fits that Detroit culture, it is a grinder like Tim Patrick.
And he's a heck of a blocker. He's a heck of a blocker as well. So he's not going to go in there. And when he's in there, it's only a pass. He's going in there and blocking as well.
Snaps keep going up for him, and they might have the best offensive line in football. So, I mean, that's why I think I have them. Yeah, I think they do.
They, too, have the best offensive line.
Yes. So that's why they're my one. I think the Vikings have been outstanding, but I do fear the quarterback a little bit more in terms of consistent play.
I don't fear him. I don't fear who he is. This is obviously a guy who sat around and understood and has –
now he's got the
been put in a best position, and Kevin O'Connell knows exactly what kind of quarterback he has, and that's the best part.
To pull. I agree, because the funny part is, tell me if I'm right on this. I think Jordan Love might be the best quarterback in the division. Caleb Williams is maybe the most quote-unquote talented. Yeah, but the other two, and Jared Goff and Sam Darnold, are the two guys that are in the top 5 in passer rating. Like, they're the two guys that run their offense really, really well. Don't make a lot of mistakes, know when to hit the plays, know when to distribute the football. And so I think that's what makes this division really interesting too, because Jordan Love is as talented as it gets in the NFL. Yeah. And his group is outstanding. Jeff Hafley had some questions. Defense has been playing pretty well. He's turned the football over a little bit, Jordan Love, but it looks like, the defense has turned it over as well. So it doesn't really, it kind of goes back and forth. He can play that aggressive style if the defense keeps going that way. The surprise of it, and let's talk about him, and what's your opinion on the Bears? This is an outstanding defense.
Yes.
That is going under the radar once again because they were great the second half of last year. And Caleb Williams is starting to find a rhythm in a sense.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking about the coaching, I'd say Shane Waldron's the one with the biggest question mark in terms of play callers in this entire division.
Well, I know Coach Eberflus is calling a defense in the game. However, his defense coordinator, Coach Eric Washington, he's outstanding. He was in Buffalo. He's a great defensive mind. He's doing an excellent job. He's assisting Coach Eberflus on the play design, how they're going to do the pressures. When I was out there for Hard Knocks, watching that defense really shows me that the offense for the Chicago Bears has the ability to make mistakes because the defense is going to get them there. What I am only concerned with, though, is Shane Waldron. He doesn't seem to be as consistent, right? There's been a lot of conversations and an inconsistency in running the football. And so when you don't run the football earlier on, and you have to have
John
players.
Been pretty good the last couple of weeks. It's gotten better.
Yes,
but you're
pretty
right.
good for the last couple of weeks.
Yes,
but you use the key word. That's a problem. He's gotten better. What was the reason for bringing in DeAndre Swift? Because he's the all-around back. He allows you not to take him out in the pass plays. He runs downhill, so he's your every down back. So he doesn't do anything to make you tip your hand on what kind of play it is. So I'm just worried that they're gonna have 2 or 3 games where they kind of look like their old self, and that's gonna cost them.
I can see that.
That's gonna cost them. And then all of a sudden, that's going to put them on the road throughout the playoffs.
How fun is this, though? Like, nobody's played each other yet. First one this week, Steve, is the one I'm going to be at. I'm going to go to Lions-Vikings.
Okay.
And I got to be there because this division is going to be outstanding. Let me ask you this. What is your favorite skill group in this division because there's some talented. I mean, Chicago's got a group of 3 receivers, and Cole Kmet's coming back on as a tight end, and you mentioned Swift, and obviously the Vikings had the best receiver in football, and a great addition in Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson's coming back. Aaron Jones. These skill groups are great in the division.
So the skill groups that I would say just all 3. 1A for me has to be the Green Bay Packers because I've seen them in person. I see their depth and they're young, right? There's no old head out of the group that you're gonna say, well, when he goes down, they're chomping at the bit. And listen, Christian Watson is one, I think, possibly the odd man out if he doesn't stay healthy, that they have like Wicks, Dobbs, Watson, Reed, right? Milton as well, he's in there.
And you got a back.
And so you got that. And then you got Chicago with Keenan Allen, who's playing in the slot. Then you got DJ Moore, who's balling, right? And I just go out there and throw it out there. After DJ Moore played the Carolina Panthers, I texted him and said, yo, I need to see that every game now, that dog that showed up. And he said something to me. He was like, I didn't think I had it like that. I said, well, that's what I'm expecting from you every day moving forward. And he
didn't think you had it like that.
He was feisty now. He said a few cuss words. He was feisty. The reason why I have not picked the Lions, because I know the Lions are still filling themselves out. The Lions just do things differently. They're built differently. They attack you in different ways. But for Minnesota and Chicago, the strength is their wide receivers. With the Lions, I don't think the Lions' strength is the wide receivers. I think the Lions' strength is their offensive line. And that offensive line makes everyone good. And so I don't believe the Lions have really hit their stride in a passing game yet.
They're putting points on the board, Steven, and Jared Goff's throwing 18, 17 passes a game.
Yes, but they still haven't had that 30 pass game where all of a sudden, like Tampa Bay just put a mollywhopping on New Orleans. They were just putting the ball down the field, right? He had 3 interceptions, but yet they were still doing things that were outstanding. So that's kind of where I kind of rank them, but it's not a ranking of who's better. At the end of the day, these 4 teams, there are people right now who would love to have the problems that they have right now.
100%. 100% agree. Underdog is bringing you Boost-tober. New promos and special offerings each day of this month. Check the Underdog app and follow us online to stay up to date on all we've got brewing this month.
All right, James, can you please help me with something? I was golfing this weekend, ironed out, and I was golfing with a guy that was really, really good. Actually, he wasn't really good, but he told me about something. He gave me a phrase, and he said, man, if you know better, then do better.
Okay. Yeah.
So that just made me think when I was watching this week's games, what in the hell is going on in Cleveland? Bro, this is tough to watch. How are they still saying that number 4 gives them the best chance to win? Is it because they don't believe in their backup?
There's a lot that play at this, Steve.
Well,
Help me help you. You're like Cuba Gooding Jr.,
understand,
man.
because what I'm seeing, look, I'm getting older, so it's my glasses, right? But help me understand, which pair of glasses should I put on? My rose-colored glasses, right? Should I put on my old prescription? Tell me how this is going down.
Steve, I don't think it matters which pair of glasses you're wearing. You can't polish this turd right now. It is just, it's awful offensively. Like, it's
really,
it's some of the worst quarterback play we've seen in 25
years. Do tell. I didn't notice.
You didn't even need to wear your glasses to see it. If you want to really get into the nit and gritty and the stats, Bill Barnwell at ESPN wrote down a short novel about how bad it's been statistically for Deshaun Watson. I will throw one out that just stood up to me from him before I get into what I've gathered, talking to people with the Browns and around the league. Cleveland's averaging on third down this season a whopping 9.2 yards. That is literally on third down. Their average yards to go is 9.2 yards, which essentially he's saying first and second down are essentially a waste of time because they're almost 3rd and 10 on average. And this is really a spot that the Cleveland Browns are stuck in. Why is it so bad? I talked to some teams that have played against the Browns this year. I want to get that out of the way first. This is what defensive coaches have seen from Deshaun Watson going against him this season. This is the one positive, really. Super tough. Has been getting hit like crazy, pops up over and over again. He actually has escaped quite a few sacks, which is astounding considering Stevie's been sacked 31 times. That's 11 more than anybody else in football. 31 sacks through 6 games would equate to 91 sacks this season if he plays all 18 games.
Is it the offensive line?
That's a part of it. We're going to get into all of it. And these are the other things to where he's not. He has no consistent chemistry with his receivers. That is from defensive coaches that have played, and they said it is obvious on film, obvious within the game.
Stop right there. What do you mean he has no consistency? Because they have a guy that they acquired from with speed, Jerry Jeudy down in Denver. He has David Njoku.
Yeah.
They have Elijah Moore.
The sentiment I'm hearing, Steve, with all these, it's not a lack of talent out of the weapons. The Browns have weapons. There's no chemistry between the quarterback and the receiving corps. Like that is what opposing coaches are seeing. There's just no feel between those two things. He can't make the tight window throws anymore. That's from defensive coaches. That's just not there anymore. Stuff has to be schemed up for him correctly, and a lot of times it has to be half field progressions. Which, if you want to tell everybody at home what that really means, it's literally he's only working half the field on a lot of what he's doing, right?
Well, from what I gather, when you're working half of the field, they're trying to minimize the mistakes. And also they're trying to hide the deficiencies. Every player has deficiencies, so I'm not pointing out anything to say that Deshaun Watson can't play football. I never said that, won't say that. He can play. However, there are some deficiencies that he has, and you just said they have to play half of the field. That means he's not seeing it fast enough
to do the
to make the right read, because in the National Football League, the windows are a little bit tighter, and they also have a lot of hands in the way because defensive linemen, if they can't get pressure, they're taught to jump up and try to deflect the ball.
Exactly right. And so this last part might be the best. And obviously these are just defensive coaches watching the film, watching their teams go against Deshaun, and this is their assumption, but it was pretty universal. There's something out there he's not trusting, and its confidence is a big part of that. They just don't see a player playing with a whole lot of confidence. And we saw that in Houston. I covered him regularly when he was in Houston. He played with a boatload of confidence back there, and opposing defenses are like, he's not trusting it. He doesn't have confidence in himself. That's what we're seeing when we go against him. So why is he still playing, right? That's our number one question. Kevin Stefanski came out again. Right?
That is the question.
That is the question. Kevin Stefanski came out again, right, this week, said he still gives us our best chance to win. So we're going to stick with him.
How is that possible? How does he give you the best chance to win when I've been watching the games and that looks the opposite? Like, this is what we call in football, we call this banana in the tailpipe, right? Where it's just
proceed.
Whatever you're telling me, it just doesn't make sense.
That's where they stand. And why are they sticking with him? Just trying to figure this out. This is what I've gathered. A lot of people are pointing the finger at this is Jimmy Haslam making the call, the ownership. They obviously made this investment with a contract that's $230 million fully guaranteed. And financially, you have to stick with the player, and the owner's making the call. I don't know if that's entirely true. It seems like everybody's kind of in on this. But the hard part to get to the bottom of it is the way Kevin Stefanski's wired. This is a 2-time coach of the year. This is a guy that had his offense last year humming with Joe Flacco coming off the couch. And so we've seen
and they
the
did
offense
not, hold
work.
on. They did not offer Joe Flacco a contract.
I think we know the reasons about that, right? I think
No,
we know,
I just want to make it clear. They did not offer him a contract, which tells me
that's a money
that
decision and a business decision.
They did not want an open competition that they're potentially lose the whatever contract. I don't want to bring another man's money up, but his contract is here, and you got a guy off the couch who's able to bring this offense here.
Yeah. The business side of football is always prevalent, right? Guys that are picked higher in the draft, first-round picks always get
Get
what?
more
Steve?
opportunities.
Multiple opportunities, right? Guys that have massive salaries always get what? Multiple opportunities because you are financially or investment in one way or another tied to these players.
Financially obligated.
Obligated is the right word. And so the way that this is hard to gather, and you can ask everybody around is, and I mentioned the way Kevin Stefanski's wired. You ask around, man, like the guy doesn't say a bad word about any of his players.
Anybody.
Ever. So you don't really know which players he likes and which ones he doesn't because he'll never say. He doesn't even reveal to guys in the organization how he's feeling about players. He is very close to the
very
best. We can
dry.
always get better, very dry as the way, and we can always improve our group. And I think that's what's making this a little bit harder because Kevin's a hard guy to read in that sense. And where he fully stands, we may not know where it's at. What we do know, this is what the Browns think. The offense is broken. It is. And a lot of it, to my understanding, they know falls on Deshaun. But there are other aspects to where they're pulling their hair out, Steve. It is, they're the most penalized team in terms of pre-snap penalties in the NFL. The false starts are through the roof. They're not just an issue on Sunday, I'm told. They're an issue during the week in practice. These things continue. Protection issues. Obviously, they've been banged up on the offensive line in just remarkable fashion. Really good players have been out. Receivers have had drops. Receivers have had times where they've run the wrong route. All of these things come together to where an offense that is just broken. Yeah. What I'm starting to get the sense is they're like, this just isn't working.
Oh, really?
The way you describe it, Steve, it would be in a relationship. Like, I don't know why, but we're just not working anymore. Like, I'm not sure if it's you, it's me, or if it's me, it's you, but things have to work between a play caller and a quarterback. And there's enough people in that building now that are going, this just isn't working. The problem is, to my understanding, what are your options? Is Jameis that much of a better option right now if you went to him over Deshaun Watson? I don't know if the Browns think he is. So why not go with the person you are obligated to play this year financially and see if it gets better and see if you can find ways for it to improve because you've already invested yourself into it. That appears to be the case right now. But the problem with that, and I want a player's opinion on this, Steve, is I think right now with the way things are going, you're running the risk of two things happening. One, Kevin Stefanski, who we've said is a very good coach, has the probable fear in the back of his mind that I could lose the locker room if I stick with this, because he is probably in a lot of players' minds not giving us the best chance to win, unless other players are like, no, he's the best quarterback on the roster. We need to stick with him. Or, and I've seen this happen before, Steve.
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's deep dive into that.
Yeah.
He's the best player than Jameis Winston. Okay, I can concede to that. I agree.
Okay.
But is he the best player currently at this moment?
That's what they're probably trying to figure out, right? I think when you make that switch, you'd probably get a boost, I would think, week 1, week 2
Bro,
from Jameis.
A boost? How about a third down completion? How about that? Bump the boost.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Don't increase my Wi-Fi when I can't call. Bro,
No, I totally get that. I'm telling you what I believe their thinking is. Like, I don't think they think the change is going to change the offense dramatically.
Bro, are you kidding me?
Listen, I'm telling you what I understand. You're giving me your opinion.
Are you telling me?
I get it.
I'm not sitting here trying to put a man down, but I'm just confused and understand. Yes, every quarterback, just like every receiver, drops a pass, runs a bad route. But bro, we're talking about 6 straight games now.
Yeah. It's actually, Steve, been the duration of his time there, honestly. It's been 3 years. I mean, he hasn't played a lot in those 3 years. There's been injuries. There's obviously a shoulder injury to a quarterback's not great. But they haven't seen really anything since they signed this contract in 3 years. So that's the argument that needs to be made is I think the sample size is getting big enough to say, I don't think we're ever going to see the player that we saw in Houston again. And remember why they did this. I mean, you look at the AFC quarterbacks, and if you want to play in that sandbox, you're going to go up against some really, really good players. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. You're in the AFC. You got to, and when he played his last season in Houston, he was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Like, he was outstanding. So I think after 3 years, I think they can come to the conclusion that we're not going to get that player. They swung, they tried, they swung for the fences, and it didn't work. And I think now where you go from here is I think this season's on the verge of being lost. So that's my point. Does he lose the locker room and you all lose your jobs? Or two, and I've seen this happen in a lot of buildings, when one side of the ball is playing dramatically different than the other, you get a split in the room.
Well, I do know, being in a locker room a few times, that guys are there so much, right? You're there so many hours. You get there, 6 a.m. and you're there till, 5, 6 o'clock. You're in the hot tub, getting stretched, getting treatment, right? So you're around each other. You eat together, man. And you're sitting there at lunch, and a guy walks past, and you kind of look at him, and this happened. Like, say, guys not playing well, and they kind of look and go like, that's the problem,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Players know.
When it gets it's look. So this is week 6. By week 10. Man, guys will start saying, yeah, look at him. You don't even eat vegetables. Right? You start examining and you start picking at a scab, right? You start to really, like, at first it's like, okay, let's put a Band-Aid on it. Man, then players start saying, you know what, let's rip this Band-Aid off, right? And then you start looking at, man, our season's over. Do I do vacation time, right? And then you get frustrated. When you start getting frustrated because you're like, yo, I shouldn't be thinking about the off season this soon into the season.
Exactly.
And I'm mad I'm thinking about the off season. And then you start to talk to your travel agent and you go, you know what, I think we may go out of the country.
When do you want to book this travel, Steve? Immediately after week 18. We ain't making the postseason.
Upset. So it's gonna be tough, man. I think it's a hard sell to keep saying you're sitting in the meeting room, the coach is coaching us up and telling us what we have to do. And here's one of the things that I always struggled with. I always struggle with this.
Hit me.
You're gonna coach me up. You're gonna coach up a lineman who missed a block, and that's right. They show it on the film. Hey guys, these are the things we need to get better at. But then what starts to happen is like, okay, I see that you're coaching me up, but are you gonna coach up that dude? Are you going to coach up that overthrow, that misidentification of where the line is sliding, that pick? You're going to nitpick me? Yeah, I should have caught the ball. But what about when I ran my right depth and I was wide open and he didn't throw it to me? That's where it's going to start getting frustrated, where I'm being examined on my job, but you're not examining some of the other people who are helping us not win.
I get that. And I think this, if you're going to make a business decision financially on maybe your obligations, like we said, is why the quarterback is staying. If you're Nick Chubb, do you make a business decision? Do you rush back from this knee injury? I think you got to look out for yourself as well. I wouldn't fault any player that feels that way. This is just a rough situation for everybody involved.
And it's so early.
It's really early. And I will say this, like, I remember talking to those guys during camp, and it's going to be a rough start. We definitely think with the way this blend of systems, and you and I have had long conversations on the phone about blending systems together offensively and styles and schemes and everything that they were trying to do offensively to play to some of his strengths, but also kind of keep what Kevin Stefanski does real well. They thought it was going to be a slow start. There'd be some rocky roads. They did not imagine, obviously, this and it being this, specifically with what they did last year. And you got talent on your roster. And you're stuck now. You took a big swing, it didn't work out, and now you're stuck in the situation. That's essentially where they're at. And how long it goes, that's going to be what we're going to watch each and every week. That's going to be the biggest thing because, again, to take this full circle, going back to the teams that have played them, they don't see this changing. They see this as who Deshaun is now.